Everything you're about to hear was recorded the previous afternoon and evening as my thoughts by the hour for WrestleMania 39 Night 1. Thank you. Alright, so I'm basically doing this hour by hour. Like after every hour or so of matches, I'm gonna come on here and do a little bit of a WrestleMania 39 review, at least for tonight, Night 1. Let's see how this goes. Now, we got the first three matches just went down. Austin Theory versus John Cena for the United States Championship. It was what I thought it was going to be, but first off, talking about the entrances. First off, Theory's entrance, he didn't really do anything spectacular. They just showed him behind the curtain psyching himself up for while the tunnel wing was lifting to show him and so he could come out. And when I saw him come out to that ring, I was like, damn. I was actually impressed at the length and the detail of that stage. Even though, yeah, I'd seen pictures of it, but watching somebody actually walk down it live and seeing the fans there in the arena and the WrestleMania go down the way that it did, it was freaking... It looked impressive. It looked impressive, as it always does. I'm not going to lie about that. Now, but John Cena, he's the one who had the special entrance. They had the commercial about how WWE does all the stuff for Make-A-Wish. They had a whole bunch of Make-A-Wish kids whose dream was to go to WrestleMania. And then they had John Cena come out and do a whole photo op with them kids before he hit the ring. That reminded me of all the irritation that I had felt over the years watching WWE constantly prop up all the charity shit and how John Cena's the face of it, to the point where, like, they literally did a thing. I remember this in 2011, I believe. They literally did a thing where, like, for breast cancer awareness, nobody was allowed to wear pink except for John Cena because they wanted to advertise him as the guy who cared about charity, the guy who cared about all these causes and breast cancer awareness and all this stuff. And it was so... I remember it wasn't just me, there was a lot of people who called that shit and was like, okay, why the fuck are you over here? Like, the only person who's allowed to wear pink is John Cena. You have a whole Divas division. You have Natalya Neidhart, who's both a diva and a heart. And yeah, nowadays people are kind of sick of Natalya. I don't really care much for her nowadays either. But back then, I was like, why the fuck is she not allowed to wear pink? She's both part of the Hart family and she's a woman, so why the fuck is she not wearing pink? For breast cancer awareness. Why is John Cena the only one allowed to do so? And the very next year, everybody was fucking doing it. Because people saw through the John Cena part. People saw through the idea of using that shit to put over John Cena. And it wasn't just that. It was, look at the whole Make-A-Wish thing. The Make-A-Wish thing was for the pretty much the entirety of John Cena's career. The Make-A-Wish thing was used to put him over more than anybody else. And again, they started talking about more of the guys as his career started winding down. And as people started being like, okay, why are you using this charity shit to put over Cena and to insulate him from criticism? And that's what that shit reminded me of. And it didn't really sit all that good with me watching that entrance. Because it was like, okay, you're putting over the fact that John Cena does all this charity shit right before he's about to walk down for this match with Theory. Are you trying to play some type of head game to make it, you trying to play some type of psychology with the fans or to make us like okay with Cena burying this kid, which is what I thought was going to happen, because he already did in the lead up to this match. He already did the whole work shoot promo to make the guy look like a schmuck. He already did that shit. So this had all the look of a John Cena goes into business against the other guy thing again. And this whole thing reminded me of why I didn't like him when he was active. But surprise to my surprise, Theory actually beat him. Not gonna say clean. It took a ref bump and a low blow, but he beat him with one A-Town down, and John Cena didn't kick out. It was literally a mid-card L. John Cena took a mid-card L to put over Austin Theory. I actually really like. I know it's supposed to be obvious that John Cena's wasn't gonna beat Theory. But it's still actually, because they actually did all the bells and whistles to make it look like this is going to be John Cena going over again because he's John Cena. And then they had Theory win in the most And they had Theory win in pretty much dominant fashion, if you want to call it that. At least compared to the way that a normal John Cena match would look. Like, they really put in effort to make it look like this dude. It really like had him just cut down the whole idea of, oh, this is going to be big match John. This is going to be Super Cena. This is going to be the guy who kicks out of 13 finishers and beats you anyway and beats you with 2. No, he didn't kick out of 1 A-Town down. This really is the winding down of John Cena's career and the ascension of Austin Theory. They did a nice job with that. The match itself, I was not really writing home about. It's just the whole story of it is what really caught my attention. The whole story and the build and the way the packaging of Cena, basically the Super Cena business as usual packaging, subverted hard by him not even kicking out of 1 A-Town down to put over Austin Theory. That was actually impressive to me. Even if the match itself was about what I expected, which nothing really to write home about. Theory was pretty good, but it wasn't all that spectacular. But it did what it needed to do even better than I would have expected it would to. Now, right now, the match is I'm watching right now. The entrances for the match is gonna be the first match I talk about in my second hour. Is the entrances that are happening right now, but I'm not even going to mention that at the moment. So let's go right to match number 2 of hour number 1. Now, I'm not starting directly at 6 because they did all the they had the Miz and Snoop Dogg hyping up the show and all of that, and they had the theatrical stuff even before the matches. So I'm not starting right at 5. Like, I'm not saying hour 1 is like from 5 to 6. I'm saying like 5:20 to 6:20 at this point. Anyway, the second match of the hour, I believe, would be the tag team Fatal 4-Way match, and that match was fun. It was pretty fun. Ricochet and Braun Strowman, I'm kind of mixed on them. I'm not, no. I like the fact that they're actually trying to do something with both of those guys as a team, but I don't know exactly what this is going to lead to because, A, they didn't win this match. B, between the fact that they didn't win this match and the fact that the big tag team championship main event is between a team that's already beaten them, the Usos, and a team that's about to become the hottest thing in WWE besides the main event, besides the world champion. It's one of those two teams that's going to be the tag team champions. And there's somebody else ahead of them, and that's somebody else being the Street Profits. And let's talk about the Street Profits for 5 seconds. Everybody's over here marking out about the idea that, about the notion that Angelo Dawkins and Montez, look, Tez, they got to break up, and Tez has got to become this big star, Montez Ford. And we're going to see this man get left out, right? We're going to see Dawkins basically left in the dust. To me, they made an effort to kind of be like, nope, that's not going to happen this time. They made an effort to completely subvert that idea. Because the match it was obviously a typical fun spot fest. We could talk about some of the spots and some of the incredible shit that was done in this. Like, for example, the freaking rolling chaos theory German suplex that Chad Gable actually hit on Braun Strowman. That was actually pretty amazing to watch. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I know the shit is fit. The shit's like, I know what it, but no. I'm not even gonna give it to that. I'm not even gonna give it that. He actually lifted it. I know Strowman had to cooperate a little bit for that spot to happen, but I'm not even gonna get into that. Theory did his job. I mean, not Theory. Gable did his job. He was freaking awesome in this match. I'm not gonna lie. That was a great spot, and he played his part as the kind of smarmy super athletic heel who's basically hiding behind the big guy. I get it. He did that. They worked that gimmick as well as they needed to. And Otis. Speaking of Otis, this is where we're gonna get one of the other notable spots I saw. The whole big men The whole big man thing. All the big men diving off the top spot and everybody misses. I think Otis missed. Ivar was the one of the Viking Raiders who missed. And then Strowman hits a freaking 300-pound frog splash. And then after that, they do the whole Strowman Express, the running train around the ring, taking down everybody's spot. And then he goes to do it again, and bam! Straight up football shoulder tackle into the dirt by Dawkins. They had Dawkins shut down the Strowman Express. And then Ricochet does a thing where he flies. His shooting star press was like, that was from the heavens. I know the Montez Ford's frog splash is called from the heavens, but that Ricochet shooting star to the outside on Dawkins and one of the other guys, I think probably, I'm trying to remember which one of the other guys, probably Gable. Yeah, it was on the Dawkins and somebody. That shit was from the heavens. And then he tries to take advantage and beat Dawkins in the ring, but with another shooting star. But Dawkins puts the knee up, and then Taz hits from the heavens to the back, and Dawkins is the one who gets the cover to pick up the pin for the Street Profits. They went out. Dawkins got the pin. There's a reason for that. They're not trying to just have this man just be completely left behind. He had the impressive tackle, dumping Strowman on the ground, cutting down, stopping the Strowman Express in its tracks. He was the brick wall, and then he got the pin to win the match for the Profits. I think they're setting up the Profits to be the next challengers for the tag titles. And then let's see what happens from there. Will it lead to the breakup of the Profits by having either KO Zania or the Usos? I'm predicting KO Zania. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to win this title match. I'm 100% certain they're going to win this match. And then we're going to get to they're going to win the main event tonight. That's basically what I'm saying. The tag team match against the Usos. Now match number 3. Logan Paul and Seth Rollins. They had Logan Paul. Logan Paul literally did actually, both of these guys kind of did a little bit of a tribute to Shawn Michaels, if you really want to look at it in a sense. Plus, Logan, there was some mind games that he played in his entrance too. First off, it was the HBK zip line. He mentioned the fact that it's his 28th birthday. He had a guy come out in his like the Prime mascot, the mascot of like his Prime Energy drink. They had somebody come out as a mascot for Prime Energy. Who, like, okay, I'm 100% sure this is going to be somebody. This guy's going to interfere in the match on behalf of Logan Paul, right? And I'm thinking it's Jake Paul. That's who I'm thinking is in that mascot outfit. I'm thinking that's Jake Paul. And then they have the guy from the symphony, this symphonic orchestrator guy, do the Seth Rollins, battle him over and over and over again before Rollins' actual theme comes on, and then Seth comes to the ring, and it's this. Then when he takes off the red robe that he's wearing, it's this outfit that's like pink BDSM suspenders of pink and red, like ring tight. It's like, I'm sorry, the dude looked like Magneto got into BDSM and took cues from Shawn Michaels from the 90s. And instantly I'm looking at that outfit and I'm like, now I understand why I would have hated HBK back in the day. Now I understand why I would have hated 90s Shawn Michaels. This dude does not look like he's coming to fight. Is basically what I was thinking this whole time I was seeing his entrance. I looked at the fucking shit he was wearing and was like, what the fuck is that? And then the match happened. And again, Logan Paul hung in there and he carried a great match. He actually did a great job in the match. Like being the arrogant heel. who is a super athlete, but he's way too cocky and way too cute for his own good. And yeah, he had a little bit of a trick up his sleeve. We know who the guy was. We know who his boy was. It was actually KSI, another social media guy. The guy who actually, I think, fought Logan Paul in a exhibition boxing match at one point. And then he freaking tried to take the picture of Logan Paul doing the doing the thing, the frog crossbody frog splash from the leap of faith crossbody frog splash from the top rope to the table with Rollins on it. He was gonna splash Rollins through the table, but right before he does the splash, Logan's busy imitating Triple H, spitting water in the sky. Seth pulls KSI into his place in the table, and Logan, without even thinking, he just immediately jumps without even taking enough time to look, and he crashes right into KSI, and that leads right to the pedigree that ends up helping look that we were thinking, okay, is that going to be the finish? Nope, false finish. He kicked out, and I'm like, okay, that is the clear evidence. Seth Rollins is not Triple H. He's not going to beat people with the pedigree in big matches anymore. Get out of here. But even more important than that, not even more important, but going back even further, I'm skipping ahead a little bit when it comes to Seth versus Logan. They did a thing where, okay, how is that titanium right hand gonna not be the thing that helps Logan Paul beat Seth Rollins? They answered that question. They actually had Logan at one point have his hand on the steps, laying on the steps when he's leaning on it for support, and then Seth stomps the freaking hand. Literally a minute later, when they're back in the ring, Logan hits Seth with the right hand to the face, knocks him the fuck out, but Logan is too hurt because of the stomp, and he's freaking reeling, and he's like clutching his hand in pain for like 10, 15, 20 seconds before he gets the cover, basically selling the spot. This is why selling is important in professional wrestling, folks. Don't listen to anybody who thinks that selling is not important. He sold the pain of getting his right hand stomped into the steps before he hit it, so he couldn't actually capitalize and get the cover immediately, so Rollins was able to kick out. That's called psychology, that's called selling, that's called storytelling. That's professional wrestling right there. But in the end, Logan tried to go for I saw Logan try to go for a stomp only to get power bombed. And in the end, Rollins ended up hitting the stomp, and he won the match, and he got to celebrate. And while I'm talking about all this, I'm also trying to pay attention to this match, this 6-woman tag team match with Damage Control versus Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, and Lita. And I'm not even hearing, because I don't got my headset right now. But all the scuttlebutt about how Trish Stratus is supposedly going to turn heel in this match, let's wait and see. They did a nice little Sin City entrance thing for Becky, Lita, and Trish to have them all come out together. Well, they hit the stage separately, but Becky Lynch's music, she was the last one, and they came down the ramp and took the fight together. Damage Control, they're doing their thing. It's, again, where it's not exactly unexpected the way things are looking right now. Io Sky's trying to cover Lita. Oh, Lita kicks out. And they're just basic. And Damage Control's got this interesting... Bailey and Dakota got this interesting... No, not Dakota. Io got this interesting going on with the Laker colors. Which is actually kind of similar to how Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes were both dressing in Stand and Deliver when those two were opponents. But that's a different story for a different day. The match is ongoing, so I'm going to get back when both this match is over and the next couple matches are done too. And it's going to be like around 7:20 or so. I'm going to come back at the end of this, at the next intermission. So the 6-woman tag was what it was. It wasn't all that eventful, but it wasn't a terrible match either. Well, that's what I can say for most of it. because I actually kind of missed most. I actually, honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I missed most of the match because I was talking about I was talking about everything that happened before it. But the few bits I saw, they looked. I would say they looked okay. Damage Control did their thing. They told their story the way they're supposed to. Obviously, Bayley was healing it up, especially when it came to when she confronted Becky. Well, really, she was talking trash the whole way every time she got offense. That was pretty. That's what she was doing. What she was supposed to do. Dakota Kai and Io Sky, well coordinated teamwork. Io flying around whenever she got a chance, showing why a lot of people like her, obviously. And you know what? It was pretty good. Becky was Becky. She did what she needed to do. And she actually ended up being the one who won the match. And they actually had they actually had a nice spot between the three, Becky, Lita, and Trish, where like where Becky and Lita set up. What's the name of the move? The Stratosphere. There's the handstand head scissors thing that Trish usually did to take people down. I remember it was called the Stratosphere. They set up where like Dakota Kai was on the turnbuckle. Becky and Lita were outside the ring. The rest of Damage Control was on the outside, and they basically had Trish come over to them and do the spot where they lifted her up to do the Stratosphere from the outside to take Dakota Kai and catapult her into Damage Control outside the ring. That was actually, I'm not gonna lie, that was also a pretty cool spot. But in general, I would say that both in her attire both in terms of attire and in terms of how they were moving around the ring, I actually believe Trish Stratus looked better than Lita, which is kind of weird because back when they were active, I liked Lita over Trish. Of course, I always liked Trish. I respect the hell out of what they were doing, and I thought both of them were sexy as hell. But Trish was like supermodel sexy. Lita had a little bit of a more tomboyish edge to her, which I felt like okay. I kind of considered her more unique, so I dug her more. But if you want my opinion on what Lita thinks personally behind the scenes, that's going to be a whole different conversation. But that's not the conversation I intend to have right now. Right now, looking at WrestleMania, looking at what happened in the show, Lita and Trish, they put out the story was done well, and we got the expected result. Well, one of the expected results. It was either going to be the Legends and Becky Lynch beat Damage Control, or Trish Stratus turns heel like everybody's saying and betrays Becky that night. And what I noticed was they actually played up both. They kind of played up the sense of is Trish gonna? Well, not they played it up. They didn't play it up. They actually like set it up like low key, where they had like a whole bunch. Where they had like during the last minute of the match when everybody was when they were setting up like the final stretches of the match. They had like several little not even several little moments. Okay, let me see if I can backtrack and get my thoughts right. Like, there was a whole point in the match where the girls were standing where, like, all three of them, Lita, Becky, and Trish, were standing in the ring, like, kind of doing their final moves on the Damage Control girls. And during that time, like, Becky, I think Bayley was trying to hit a Bayley to belly on Becky. And Trish didn't do any, and I noticed Trish not doing anything to stop it, mainly because I didn't notice Trish doing anything to stop it. It was like, why aren't Trish and Lita getting involved? Do they want Bayley to hit? But that's not what was actually happening. But nah, it was just, nah, Becky's going to counter it. She's going to get out of it. And inevitably, she ended up nailing the manhandle slam. She nailed the manhandle slam from the top and pinned Bayley for the 1-2-3. And then I noticed they've been doing these long celebrations for everybody who wins their matches. And this time, like, the celebration with Trish and Lita and Becky, it looked like it was a setup. Now, it didn't feel completely out of place because they had the winners of these matches celebrate for like several minutes because this is WrestleMania. So they're kind of making it look like, okay, every match that happens at WrestleMania is a big deal. Every winner is a big deal, this, that, and the third. So I appreciate that. But at the same time, it created the perfect opportunity to set up a scenario where, okay, during one of these long celebrations, something's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to do something during some of this shit. And I was thinking, okay, Trish is going to be the one to betray Becky during this. This is going to be the time that Trish picks her spot to attack Becky. They took care of business. They won the match. They beat Damage Control. She's not hurting Lita by attacking Becky Lynch now. So she's going to attack Becky Lynch. She didn't do it. She didn't attack Becky Lynch. It was just another long celebration. But it was a lot of people were probably sitting up wondering, oh, is she going to do it? Is she going to do it? Is she going to do it? Nope. Nothing happening. And then the Mysterios had their fight. Holy God. Can I say, first off, every bit of how much everybody underestimated Dominik, myself included, we finally get to see that this kid has something. He's got it in the ring as a character, understanding how to tell a story, how to do the beats that need to be done. Now, I'm not saying he was innovating any of this shit, but he clearly knew how to actually carry the leads that were given to him. And he was excellent in the match as the heel, as the antagonist, as the disrespectful punk-ass son who needs to get his ass beat. You had him throwing a drink on his beautiful sister Aaliyah, and that got a lot more... And she went right... And she tried to jump after him. This was the part where Dominik took control of the match, because he was having trouble handling Ray. Oh, but let's skip even before that. The entrances. They had Snoop Dogg... Like, first Dominik, they actually had a whole freaking prison Dom scene, and he came out like as a freaking inmate, as like an inmate being led out into the streets at WrestleMania with his freaking Judgment Day coat and Rey Mysterio mask on, and Michael Cole, as he has been doing this entire time, ever since the moment Dominik first turned heel, Michael Cole has been doing the thing that I wish I appreciated when he did to Edge back in 2006, 7, or 8. I wish I appreciated this out of Michael Cole. He completely hammered the point home. He's screaming his ass off about how disrespectful and how out of line and how this guy has no respect for this business. He basically pulled over the story that Dominik is a fucking he's this freaking asshole. And he needs to get shown up. And he needs to be put in his place. Which is exactly the same way that this guy handled Edge back in the day, in the heyday of the Rated R Superstar, and especially during that one year where him and Undertaker and Batista were the top of SmackDown. And Edge was obviously the heel in that whole picture, the opportunist, Money in the Bank, cashing in on Undertaker when he got his hell beat out of him by like 3 different people. La Familia, Hawkins and Ryder, the relationship with Vicky Guerrero that even I fucking puked at, even though Edge was my favorite wrestler. And Michael Cole was going in on Edge every chance he got. During anytime Edge had an entrance after the last time he did some bullshit, Michael Cole would go in on him and how he has no respect for the business, how he's a cheat, how he's a dirty manipulator, this, that, and the third. This is what he's doing with Dominik right now. I wish I appreciated it back then. I definitely appreciate it now. That's all I'm going to say about Michael Cole. Michael Cole's the fucking man. When it comes to, like, actually telling stories. When he's not, like, when he's not forced to handle, like, a bunch of billboards that Vince McMahon is screaming at him to promote in his ear, he's the man. He's actually really, really good. I'm not going to say he's Jim Ross good. No, absolutely not. He's not Jim Ross. He's not, like, Matt Striker. He was like, or at least, well, actually, he's not even in the same role as Matt Striker, so why am I even saying that? But the point is, he's not Jim Ross, but he's damn good. That's what I'm saying about Michael Cole. But they had that entrance. Snoop Dogg is the one who accompanied Rey Mysterio in a lowrider. But they actually did, like, they sang one of the... It's that Snoop Dogg song, It's Like This, It's Like That, It's Like This. And then they had... I forgot the title of that song, actually. It's leaving my mind at this point. Then they played Viva la Raza, Eddie Guerrero's theme song. And then they played Rey Mysterio's theme. That was the entrance. The match, look how I described it. I went into detail. Look what's going on. I already went into, well, not detail, but I already described enough of the shit. Rey Mysterio was, of course, he was the man. And there was even a spot at one point where I'm like, where Dominik had actually catapulted Rey, like alley-oop, into the bottom turnbuckle head first. And people were thinking, holy crap. And like, it was played like Dominik freaking decapitated Rey. Or some shit like that. Or he may have decapitated Rey. It was like one of those spots. And speaking of one of those spots, I'm saying something right now in the next match, but I'm not going to talk about it yet. Anyway. In the end, Dominik, they played up him being an antagonist to his own family. Throwing a drink on Aaliyah, which got Aaliyah to actually freaking jump the rope. And by the way, the throwing the drink part. Did we not notice what that was? That was a shot at AEW. Remember when MJF threw the drink on the black woman's son, and she just stood there, didn't try to attack him or anything? This was WWE saying we can do that spot in a story that has a lot more meaning to it, in a moment that looks a lot more disrespectful because it is a lot more personal who the heel does it to, and the heel and the quote-unquote victim appropriately reacts by trying to jump the guardrail to kick Dominik's ass, but Rey has to hold back his sister, and that's what Dominik uses to take control of the match. That's how you fucking do a throwing your drink spot. That's how you do a throwing your drink into a plant spot. Okay? Dominik Mysterio is better than MJF. I'll say it. He was better at being a legitimate, genuine antagonist within the context of the story that he's telling, without relying on Howard Stern shock humor that you couldn't say in WWE anyway, or blatant cheap heat. Dominik Mysterio is outdoing Maxwell Jacob Friedman at Maxwell's game. Part of it is because we actually believe that Dominik sucks as a wrestler, which he proved he doesn't. The other part of it is WWE is actually telling a story with Dom that is far more personal in a sense of not even trying to justify him. It's far more personal without justifying his grudge than anything that AEW did in MJF. Because it's always about how his idols from WWE disappointed him. All the stories that get personal when it comes to Max, that's what it is. His WWE idols somehow disappointed him or upset him or didn't pave the way for him on a red carpet. And so that's why he's mad. But he's able to spin it in a way that makes himself look sympathetic. Dominik is not sympathetic at all. So I freaking love what has happened with Dominik and Rey Mysterio. It's probably the second best story behind the long and winding Bloodline saga. And in the end, you had Priest and Devitt try to interfere, and Legado del Fantasma, the new LWO, come and fend them off. You had Dominik try to use a chain. This was the ending, actually. He tried to use a chain. Whoa! Okay, I'm going to admit it. The next match was Rhea. I'm about to talk about it in a minute anyway. She was actually the one person in Judgment Day that wasn't out there, and it's because she's there now. But anyway, Dominik. The ending of the match had him try to use a chain that was left in Damian Priest's blazer that he left at ringside. But Bad Bunny, who's there in Spanish commentary, took the chain out of Dominik's hand, which distracted First, it didn't allow Dom to cheat. Second, it distracted him, which allowed Rey to hit him with the 619. And I think, hit him with the 619 and then the splash to get the 1-2-3. Rey is celebrating with his family and Legado. And Priest and Devitt picking up Dominik on the outside that we saw. And now the entrances after that to the next match, which was the SmackDown Women's Championship match, which is not the main event of WrestleMania Night 1. The confirmation I got from the pre-show was correct. Rhea Ripley comes out looking like freaking death. Charlotte Flair comes out looking like a cross between Maleficent and Queen Elsa. Corey Graves is talking about how Charlotte Flair walking down the ramps at WrestleMania with a championship, it just feels right. Rhea Ripley's getting more of a pop than Charlotte because she wasn't out there for the Dominik shit. And now they're freaking tearing it up, having a super athletic match. Which you already know that this is what they're going to do. Charlotte Flair being obviously a former gymnast, she's playing that. She completely parlays that into her ring style all the freaking time. And Rhea Ripley being the powerhouse / the heel smart girl, whatever. Or whatever. Why am I saying or whatever? Clearly this isn't like the super detailed, like I'm digging into every single match like I'm a freaking boss or some shit like that. Clearly that's not that. But Rhea and Charlotte, they're both doing their thing. This is basically all I got. And I might give a little bit more, like, okay, here's a spot that happened towards the end. But this is all I got right now. I'll be right back. Let me just say right now, WWE is the greatest professional wrestling company in the entire world. They got the best talent, and when the storytelling and the presentation is on point, the shows that they're able to put on is bar fucking none. The best out of anybody in this game. This WrestleMania, we're just one night in. This is not over yet. There's still another night of WrestleMania to go. So we just halfway through the real big deal. But what they just did, even though everybody could have called most, if not all, of the results, everything was done perfectly. Before I go too far ahead of myself, I want to stay on track because the last thing I was talking about was the Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley match while it was in progress. Now, I probably need to watch the whole thing over so I can know like enough of all the notes to really kind of really appreciate how good that match apparently was. But from what I saw alone, I was already like, okay, they did it. They did what they needed to do with that one as well, which is kind of the theme here. This WrestleMania did everything it needed to do and then some. Now you look at the Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley match, they told, again, the appropriate story. Charlotte is the queen. She, like I said, she came in looking like a cross between Elsa and Maleficent. Rhea Ripley came in. She's the Eradicator. She's got this freaking gothic makeup on her face looking like Black Death personified. With nice hips, of course, but that's a different story. We obviously see the contrast, gymnast versus powerhouse. They're both getting their usual shit in. But when they had their kickouts, both of them kicked out of each other's finishers. Or at least a couple of each other's main moves. Charlotte kicked out of a riptide. And Rhea was like practically panicking. Like, what the hell? What's going on? How am I supposed to deal with this? And she eventually even got out of that submission hold that Rhea's been using too. I forgot its name. But Rhea later on, he's kicking out of a spear. And Charlotte has this look on her face like she's about to cry out of doubt. Like, she's also like, what do I have to do? But it's not frustrated like Rhea, but staying in the match. It's a look of doubt. It's a look of, how is this happening to me? I'm the one who usually does this to people. And when I saw that, and when I heard Michael Cole and Corey Graves mention it on commentary, it immediately gave me flashbacks to John Cena versus AJ Styles at SummerSlam 2016, where John Cena, he's the guy that usually kicks out of everything everybody else has to offer. He's the golden child, just like Charlotte Flair, right? Cena had AJ kick out of one too many AAs, and he started wondering, what the hell do I have to do? And AJ Styles, of course, and they took note of it on commentary as well, just like they did with this one. And AJ Styles won. The moment I caught that bit on commentary, I knew Rhea Ripley was winning this match. Because it had all the same notes as John Cena versus AJ Styles. With the exception of the powerhouse being being in the Cena versus Styles case, the more powerhouse wrestler is the Golden Child babyface, and the more agility, high flying wrestler is the heel who's gonna beat them. So that was basically the female version of Cena versus Styles, what Charlotte and Rhea did. And Charlotte, she didn't look like she was bitching about any of it, either in kayfabe or real life. She actually looked gracious in defeat. Like she was kind of had this little congratulatory smile, this half-hearted clapping, because of course you hate being the one who actually lost, because that makes sense. And Rhea gets to celebrate with fireworks and everything. So it wasn't the main event of the show, but they made damn sure that they were going to steal the show. And Rhea Ripley, the Eradicator, is now the SmackDown Women's Champion. And here's another thing I noticed. Finn and Damian were out there for Dominik's match just before this, but Rhea wasn't. Obviously, it's because Rhea had to have her own battle, so of course she couldn't be out there. But what else it did was it basically it shielded her from being treated to the same type of reception by association of Dominik as a heel. So the fans ended up cheering they didn't boo Charlotte out the stadium, but they cheered Rhea louder than they cheered Charlotte. And Rhea won, and it was a good time. Then you had an intermission with The Miz and Snoop Dogg talking about the attendance record. Pat McAfee comes back to WWE, picks a fight with The Miz. One of the football players for the 49ers, I forget his name now, Kreese, I believe, is in the stands. Miz attacks him, and then he fucking comes up. He jumps the rail, and he's basically the new Gronk, basically, at this point, and attacks Miz and helps him set him up for McAfee to beat him in an impromptu match. So, yeah, that was that. That was a fun little interlude. That was a good little cool down. And the fans were going to need that cool down, because what happened next needed all the heat, all the emotion, all the investment of the crowd that it could possibly muster, or else it A, wasn't going to be worthy of being the main event with both Judgment Day matches stealing the show, and B, was some of the beats that they ended up going to would have been ridiculous without the adrenaline of the crowd. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who I call KO Zania. Here's why. KO Mania, that's the theme of Kevin Owens', everything Kevin Owens does at WrestleMania is KO Mania. And then he comes out this year with the WrestleZania shirt to commemorate Sami and the year he's had. So KO Mania plus WrestleZania, that's my name for their tag team, KO Zania. Sounds a lot better than Cammy, doesn't it? AJ. I'm sorry. I gotta take a little bit of a shot right there. I know AJ's my boy. He was the best wrestler in the world for the longest time, but I gotta take a little bit of a shot. Cammy was ridiculous. So I'm not even gonna dignify that. KO Zania. That's their name. KO Zania versus the Usos, the greatest tag team in WWE history, for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships in the biggest tag team match of all time, the first ever tag team main event of a WrestleMania evening. That was history making. Right then and there, by itself. Then you have all the emotional storytelling of what they did. The standoff, first off, the standoff at the beginning, the face-off at the beginning, the hype at the beginning. Sami's in the ring. He's ready to take care of business. And at first, the Usos, Jimmy is the one in the ring at first, but then he realizes what's going on. And Jay, he's looking like he wants in. So Jimmy shouts to his brother, "You want in, bro? You want to handle this? You want to handle this? All right, you handle this." Jay puts his hand out for the tag. Jimmy tags him in, and they're the ones fighting first. And if you take the best Kevin Owens WWE matches, the best Sami Zayn WWE matches, and the best Usos matches, you put those shits together, and you add in Superman storytelling beats, you add in the adrenaline of a crowd that is so freaking hot that it could be that if they chanted "Fight Forever," I would have been right there with them, but they actually didn't. But the way they were cheering and the way they were invested, they might as well have fought forever, and they practically did. All sorts of damage, all sorts of shit that these guys did to each other. Finisher kickouts galore. Even had a kick out of a 1D. Even had, I believe, Sami Zayn kicked out of the 1D. And I'm like, okay, what the hell? This is, one part of me is like, why are these guys kicking out of shit that should be ending the match? Part of my brain is breaking from how many times it happened in this one match. But the other part of my brain is like, no, I'm right there. Because these cats, this is an emotional story. These cats have all the pressure in the world. They're fighting like their lives depend on this match because they practically do. Sami and Kevin, they gotta take this one. This is their dream tag team. This is their dream tag match. They're here together as best friends, as brothers, fighting for the tag team titles in WWE for the first time ever. And it's in the main event of WrestleMania. And it's in a personal story involving guys who they used to look up to, who they used to respect to. Actually, one would go on to say that they were practically like some of their closest homeboys backstage for all those years. And even within the storylines with Sammy's part in the bloodline and through this whole past year, and even back in 2020 when this whole shit started, when Kevin was basically telling Jey Uso after Jey lost to Roman Reigns in the 2 matches where he was forced to fall in line, Kevin was one of the first ones who came up to Jey in the back and said, "You don't have to be doing Roman's bidding like this, bro." So the beats of the story of these guys fighting here, and it warranted all that Superman shit. The opportunity to take down the Bloodline's tyrannical reign over WWE by putting the chink in the armor that would make Roman crack. The fact that the Usos did not want to be on the receiving end of whatever fury Roman was going to come at them with if they came back to the locker room as failures. All of that coalesced in not only, look, I could talk about the finisher kickouts. I could also talk about some of the freaking shit that they actually did. You had table bumps. You had the Usos throwing Kevin Owens through a table. You had every opportunity that Jey got to be vicious towards Sami. He was vicious. He was talking trash. He was on his helmet. He was talking shit to him about how, yo, I called you my brother. This is how you want to do it? I called you my brother. You should have never left the bloodline. All of this. You had points where like Sami hit a haluva kick and then KO hit a stunner, and it's like, oh my God, how the Usos kick out of this? But I just explained how. It makes sense even though it don't make sense. And in the end, the final sequence of the match happened, of course, with Jey and Sami being in the ring. And Sami hits Jey with a haluva kick. And Jey collapses in Sami's arms the same way Kevin Owens did back at Survivor Series when Sami sealed the Bloodline's victory that night. And Sami is looking at Jey with this, and I think he says something to him, and he puts him back on the turnbuckle, hits him with another haluva kick. Kevin and Jimmy end up getting in. Jimmy tries to interfere, and Kevin hits him with a stunner, I believe. Another stunner. And then Sami hits a third Helluva Kick and covers Jey Uso for the 1-2-3. So Jey Uso is the one who lost the tag team titles. Sami Zayn is the one who won the tag team titles. Main event Jey Uso was going to eat a lot of shit from speaking of main event Jey Uso, they actually noted on commentary that Jimmy Uso could be called main event too. We could easily say main event Jimmy Uso. So instead of just saying main event Jey Uso and his brother Jimmy, we now have a case to talk about the main event Usos. This was important. It was important. It was actually, honestly, it was more important than I realized for this match to be the closing, for this match to be the main event. And because of the bar that was set so high by the Mysterios and by Ripley versus Charlotte, they had to freaking go all out in order to not have the show stolen, in order to justify the decision from an in-ring storytelling match standpoint. They had to justify it, and I believe they absolutely did. And if I may say so myself, Charlotte Flair did the right thing. Whatever political bullshit she may have been trying to pull to make sure that she was the main event, she didn't pull through with it. And whether it was because she stopped trying after a while because of how over Sami and Kevin were and realized it wouldn't be right, or because Triple H and Vince McMahon put their foot down and said, no, we're going with the right choice for this time. She accepted it, and she had one of the best matches she's ever had. And then KO and Sami Zayn and the Usos put on that match. This WrestleMania, it's only one night over. There's another night of WrestleMania, but they've already shown that they know exactly what they're doing. And look, when Sami covered Jay for that 1-2-3, it sounded like he won the World Heavyweight title. That's how much these people cared. That's how much the fans in LA cared. That's how much probably everybody around the world cared about Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' story, and about them beating the Usos, taking the tag team titles as best friends, and potentially killing the Bloodline's reign. This is how much the fans got invested into it. I've seen World Heavyweight title pops that couldn't fathom being as hot as what just happened here. So no, Sami Zayn did not get disserviced. He did not get shafted. No, Mr. Jellybean from New York. I'm sorry, I have to fucking call you by something other than your name. But no, bruh. It wasn't a case of, the tag team titles are not going to be good enough for Sami Zayn. This is a disservice. No, motherfucker. The only disservice is the fact that you are so busy in you have built a brand around hating and distrusting anything that WWE does that doesn't involve giving Ring of Honor guys who look like they can't be superstars at first glance a World Heavyweight title, instead of actually doing the things necessary to tell stories that make them into superstars. Anything WWE does outside of handing their company over to ROH alumni, you built a brand of hating and convincing people to hate. That's the only reason you didn't see this coming. That's the only reason you didn't see how this was going to be. That's all I'm going to say to that motherfucker. But enough about talking to that motherfucker. I would much rather be talking in general. Look what we just saw. Look what just happened with the Bloodline. The Usos just lost. And look what happened with the Judgment Day. Dominik, he got his ass whooped, but we knew he was going to. He was supposed to. But in the end, he still showed that he has the potential to be damn good in this business. What needed to happen with that kid was he needed to stop wrestling Ray's style. He needed to have his own. He needed to pattern himself a little bit more after Eddie. But at the same time, not be held to having to be Eddie. That's what Dominik needed, because that's the way his body frame is most fit for that style. Is more fit for an Eddie style than a Ray style in terms of how he works in the ring. And also, you can't be trying to be your old man. Hell, Rey Mysterio. He was Rey Mysterio Jr., right? Because his uncle, the man who taught him, was the original Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio Sr. was a powerhouse wrestler. He wasn't a high flyer like Rey Jr. So, in essence, you can't try to be your old man. You could take after him. You could look up to him. Hell, in the case of this storyline, you could want to beat him to prove you're better than him. But you can't try to be him. And that was the mistake that was being made with Dominik as a character before he turned heel. Now that he's embraced this role, he's being him. Taking influences from Eddie and his ring style, from Conan and his whole prison gangster get up. But he's being him. And it's working. I'm not saying Dominik is going to be a world champion. He could be an annoying challenger for Cody Rhodes at some point. But he's not. But I'm not saying he's actually going to be a world champion. What I am saying is he's got a career. Speaking of people who've got a career, and speaking of Judgment Day, how about Mami? How about the Eradicator? Rhea Ripley. She looked like a freaking. She looked like gold. I know I say she looked like death, but I'm talking about like her style, her aesthetic, her gimmick is what I'm saying. She looked like Black Death personified with hips. But in terms of like just how good, just how well she carried herself, just how poised she was in that ring, she was golden. Like, this is Rhea's moment. This is Rhea's time. And I believe now, Judgment Day, they're about to head to SmackDown permanently. Because Dominik, he just had a feud with his father, who's on SmackDown, and the way he was looking at Ray when he was looking at Ray, he was scowling when Ray was hugging Angie and Aaliyah, the beautiful Aaliyah, by the way. I'm not talking about Raquel Rodriguez's friend Aaliyah. I mean Ray's daughter Aaliyah, nor the R&B singer Aaliyah, God rest her soul. But when he was hugging his wife and his daughter, Rey Mysterio, in the ring after the match, and Dominik was scowling at them, it did not look like this show was over. It didn't look like Dominik was done. It didn't look like he's done with his family. He's not done fuck with his family. So that means he's gonna be on SmackDown, because Ray transferred to SmackDown to get away from this shit. But between Dominik's beef with Ray, Rhea winning the SmackDown Women's title, and what looked like, and I'm 95% sure that Finn Balor is gonna be done with Edge at Hell in a Cell. This is gonna end the Finn Balor and Edge deal, which means Finn's going to win. A, they're bringing back the Demon. B, they're looking like they're going to move Judgment Day to SmackDown, which means the whole deal between Finn Balor and Edge has to end here. So I'm almost certain Finn Balor is going to beat Edge at Hell in a Cell tomorrow night. And here's a funny wrinkle. Here's a funny wrinkle for what I think could possibly happen. I'm actually predicting that WWE... Look, Nick Khan said be ready for a bunch of surprises, right? Okay, KSI was a surprise. Trish not turning heel was kind of a meta surprise. Pat McAfee coming back was a bit of a surprise. But in terms of like the match results and everything that happened, I think most of us called pretty much everything that happened on this show. Austin Theory beating John Cena, even though they tried their damnedest to make it look like Super Cena was going to come back and negate everything the Theory did, and to that point to rebuild himself after the Money in the Bank debacle. Thanks, Triple H. But yeah, Theory won. The Becky and the Legends won over Damage Control. Rhea beating Charlotte. I think most of us saw, like, common sense wise, of course Rhea's going to win, but Charlotte being Charlotte, she's the golden child of the WWE. There's always that feeling that even when common sense dictates that of course she's going to lose, she could probably still win anyway. That was a thing. But most of us, like, if you're looking at it from a common sense standpoint, Rhea's going to win. Looking at it from a storyline standpoint, from the main event, the actual main event tonight, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, it was like, of course they're going to win. But there was always this outside chance that the Bloodline's reigns of dominance could be bolstered even further because they might want to do a whole thousand day reign thing with Roman. They might want to do something else special with, like, the Usos hitting another milestone, or they might want to do something where either Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn pulls a heel turn. Those were all possibilities that people were thinking to say that why maybe the Usos were going to retain. But most of us were like, no, we see the tea leaves. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are going to win this thing. And of course they should win this thing, which is exactly what they did. So we called the opener with Theory versus Cena. We called the Legends beating Damage Control. We called... Actually, I don't know who called the tag team match, the Fatal 4-Way tag match. I don't think people much cared enough about that match to call a winner, but the Street Profits was a good decision. And helping put over Dawkins a little bit in the process of the Street Profits winning. Street Fighters. Got a little bit of Street Fighter 6 on my brain a little bit too. But yeah, that was a good decision. That was actually pretty impressive that they actually thought ahead enough to do that, to help put Dawkins over. That was probably the biggest surprise out of any of the match results, is what I'm going to say. But there weren't a whole bunch of surprises in terms of, like, hell, Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. I think most of us figured that Seth Rollins was going to win, especially after the reports coming out that Logan Paul's contract with WWE was already running out. But at the same time, I was like, there was also part of me that was thinking, what if they put that out what if WWE intentionally put that out as a thing to kind of trick people into thinking, okay, there's no way Logan Paul can win, and all of a sudden Logan Paul wins. That was a possibility that I was thinking of that probably could have been a thing, but fortunately it didn't happen that way. But the real big thing I was thinking was whoever wins this match between Seth Rollins and Logan Paul, that's who's going to be the number one contender to face Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. That's my other prediction about that match in particular. Mark my words, this is probably going to be the match. At or before SummerSlam, Seth Rollins, who won this match, is probably going to face Cody Rhodes for the WWE World Heavyweight title at or before SummerSlam. And ultimately, so most people called that also. Most people called Ray beating Dominik. Most people called Rhea beating Charlotte. Most people called all of these matches. Night 2's probably a little bit more likely to throw a couple curveballs in the predictability cycle. But I need a little bit more in terms of, like, surprise moments, like, within the matches. Now, for the Bloodline's going to fall, WWE is going to need something to take its place. In terms of, like, being one of the great faction stories of the time, right? There's going to need to be a little something to take the place of the Judgment Day. What if, here's what I'm starting to think. What if WWE had a plan to bring back the OC? Now, from everything I've heard, like, I haven't heard any indication of when AJ Styles is coming back or anything like that. So I don't know if he actually shows up I don't know, like, how his ankle's doing, if he's recovered enough to be able to show up at WrestleMania, or if he's still going to need, like, a few weeks or a few more months, or if it's more towards SummerSlam he's going to be back. I don't know. I don't know. But if by some stroke of genius, WWE managed to keep out of the ears of the IWC, out of the ears of the dirt sheets, that AJ Styles is imminent, ready to come back, and will be back this week, I'm actually thinking that WWE is going to pull some shit. Or, yeah, Damian Priest is going to try to interfere to help Finn. Gangrel, who recently showed pictures of him on social media saying he's in LA, is going to appear to help Edge, who's going back to his Brood roots, going back to his dark side. Gangrel's going to appear to help Edge. Probably to fend off Damian Priest. But I predict there's going to be another curveball. I predict that we're finally going to see if AJ is healthy enough, we're going to see the OC, Edge, and Finn Balor all in the same ring at the same time. The OC are going to run in and they're going to make a decision as to who they side with. And yes, it is a decision that would need to be made. It is a decision that would be with some decent amount of suspense. Because we saw what happened with Finn Balor and AJ Styles and how they fell out because AJ wouldn't cave to join in the Judgment Day, and the OC came back and helped to fight him off. But the Judgment Day won that feud. But then what happened after that? The OC and the Judgment Day, their feud largely petered right out just in time for Edge to come back. And if we remember correctly, Judgment Day versus a quasi Bullet Club type alliance was the thing before Finn flipped to Judgment Day, because Edge started Judgment Day basically to stave off the vengeance of AJ Styles. Because AJ had tried to attack. No. AJ had accepted Edge's challenge for WrestleMania, but then Edge attacked AJ. Then they have their match at Mania, and Damian Priest interferes to help Edge. Damian Priest, who had just recently at the time turned heel himself against Finn Balor, and who we know has been Edge's kind of protege behind the scenes as it is. So you have that development. So Priest and Edge, they both turn heel on pretty much the same day, if not the same time frame, if not the same day. Then Priest turns up and helps Edge beat AJ at WrestleMania. Then Finn turns up to back up AJ, both because he has a problem with the same guys and because of the whole Bullet Club history thing. And then Rhea, that's when Rhea Ripley joins Judgment Day, and then Liv Morgan comes into play, and then they have the 6-person Hell in a Cell. Judgment Day beats the club, and Finn flips to Judgment Day, and after that, that's actually Hell in a Cell last year is actually the last time AJ Styles and Edge have ever interacted, because Edge and Beth Phoenix were taken out right before the deal with Finn accosting AJ and the OC returning, and then the OC's feud was largely phased out of play right in time for Edge to come back. So we've never seen AJ Styles and babyface Edge interact with each other since Edge was kicked out at the Judgment Day. So it's actually possible, if you really look at that picture, if they're planning an OC return, would the OC want to help Edge? Or would they be convinced behind the scenes by Finn to actually join forces with him, to combine the OC and the Judgment Day, and to create effectively a WWE version of Bullet Club? I wouldn't totally bet against that strategy, because I think it would probably be a vehicle that Triple H would probably want to use to try to get some of his favorite guys over. And Vince McMahon would probably say we need something to kind of fill the hole of the bloodline no longer being a dominant force on the program anymore. So I could see them probably doing something like that. It's kind of a cheap in. But you might be surprised if I say this. I brought this idea up. I'm the one bringing this idea to the table, but I don't know if it would actually be a good idea for them to run with, because if I'm going to be perfectly honest, WWE is not the company that needs to run something with the Bullet Club. But I'm thinking that WWE might have an opening to try to do something with the OC and the Judgment Day together in one group. And I'm thinking that would probably be a way for Finn to kind of beat Edge, like kind of decisively, but still not kind of decisively enough to fit the Demon winning a match, but still not necessarily a clean victory. Still dirty heel shit, but that would be a surprise if it happened. But would they be able to actually run it correctly? And number one, I don't know about that. And does WWE need to do anything with that? I'm also going to say the ship sailed. The ship has sailed on WWE Bullet Club being a hot thing. I think they could do it, but I don't think it'll catch fire the way that it could have years ago or the way that the Bloodline has. So I think it would be a step down. But more importantly than that, what else could be a huge surprise would be, well, Roman retaining the title at WrestleMania after what happened tonight. After what happened tonight with the Usos and Kevin and Sami, I don't see Roman Reigns retaining against Cody Rhodes. I don't see it whatsoever. Hell, even before we got to the Rumble, once it became predictable of who they wanted in each position, they wanted to set up the Sami and Kevin versus the Usos. They wanted to set up the reunion of Sami and Kevin all the way up to Chaosania versus the Usos. They wanted to set up Cody winning the Royal Rumble, becoming the number one contender, Roman Reigns. People saw that. A lot of us saw that was what they wanted to do even before it happened, especially when the reports started coming out basically saying that Cody could be cleared by the Rumble. Everybody, we all saw this one coming. This was the plan all along, and these are the right people that they had put in place to get these victories, and they told the perfect story to get everybody on fire heading into the show. And Sami and Kevin have just, look how they completely stole the show. I predict Cody is going to do the same thing. If they have Roman somehow retain the belt because some sort of deal was made, you know what? No, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening at all. What else could be surprising? I'm trying to think of what could be surprising. I just wanted to freaking tangent about the Bullet Club because, of course, I did. And Roman Reigns retaining the belt, I consider that a surprise. I'm going to tell you right, if Roman retains this title, he just paid some people's rent. I'm not saying I'm one of those people. I'm not, by the way. But those two things are things that I'm thinking could be surprises for night 2. They could have Omos beat Brock Lesnar. They could use that to reunite the Hurt Business, actually. That's what I'm saying. Is another surprise. Speaking of factions, the Hurt Business reuniting through Omos beating Brock Lesnar. Especially if Brock Lesnar didn't sign a new contract, too. It's the same thing we're hearing the same thing we heard about Logan Paul. His contract expired. We're hearing Brock's is about to run out, and this is going to be his last date unless he re-signs for another deal. And a lot of people are looking at the result of this match to see if Brock actually did re-sign or not. If he loses to Omos, that means he's out the door. If he wins, he re-signed. So a lot of people are thinking. But what I'm thinking is, whether Brock re-signs or not, what if they decide that this is the opportunity needed to revive the Judgment Day? And they actually have Bobby Lashley, Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin all come out, interfere, and screw Brock Lesnar to help Omos win. And this is the return of the Hurt Business. This is actually what I would do. Honestly, if I was them, this is actually a good one. Forget the club. The Hurt Business is a faction that needs to be brought back. They were cut short in WWE by Vince McMahon for the dumbest of reasons. Yes, I'm freely saying Vince McMahon fucked something up, okay? I'm not over here on this Vince McMahon is God train. I'm not going to deny when Vince McMahon sucks, when Vince McMahon makes bad decisions. I'm not going to deny when that happens, okay? It happens sometimes. Probably not as much as the IWC would like to let people believe, but it does happen, and the Hurt Business breakup was one of those times where Vince McMahon absolutely made the wrong decision for a boneheaded reason. You portrayed the Hurt Business as a bunch of businessmen who don't care so much about being good guys or bad guys, so much as just doing what needs to be done for their business at whatever particular time. But you're about to head into WrestleMania, and you're all nervous. I'm talking about 2 years ago. You're about to head into WrestleMania 37. You got Lashley versus Drew McIntyre on the tab for the WWE title match at WrestleMania. And you're over here on this kick about how, oh, we can't have people cheering for the heels. You didn't portray the Hurt Business as heels. You portrayed them as cool dudes. Hell, you even pipe in cheers for Lashley when he beats certain people. You piped in cheers for the Hurt Business at the Thunderdome when they beat on Retribution, a.k.a. WWE Antifa. You piped in cheers for Lashley when he embarrassed The Miz to become WWE Champion in the first place. But you're telling me that you don't want Lashley and the Hurt Business cheered? You don't want Lashley cheered so bad that you have him take a dump all over this shit that he has been building for the past year and tell him an MVP to basically fire Alexander and Benjamin from the Hurt Business? Because they're too over? They might take away shine from Drew McIntyre? That was an utterly boneheaded decision, and the execution was even worse, to the point where Lashley still got cheered more than Drew McIntyre, and Vince McMahon ended up being so afraid of backlash and of being called racist that he basically had Lashley beat McIntyre 3 times in a row and pretty much killed Drew as a main eventer. He had to freaking press that panic button. And then you had to press another one. Come on, McMahon. That was a bad call and you know it. The Hurt Business is a group that needs to come back. And yeah, Alexander and Benjamin, they've actually been appearing on the shows a lot more over the past couple of months than they had over like pretty much the whole year prior to that. But I still don't think that they're going to actually start getting proper build until they actually until the Hurt Business actually properly reunites. Which I think this is the time to do that. With Omos as a bodyguard. As a matter of fact, having Omos as a bodyguard would probably go a long way towards Alexander and Benjamin getting back to that credible position. To where they could actually be more of a threat in the tag team division again. Which they're going to need to establish that type of credibility in order to believe that they're going to beat Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn now. But on an overall basis, I'm just prognosticating about about particular things that could end up going down the line, because like this WrestleMania so far has been really good. But I'm over here trying to get a pulse on what's going to happen tomorrow. And what could happen from what happens tomorrow, especially if Nick Khan talking about we're going to get a bunch of surprises is actually true. Could we see the OC come back? Could we see them reigniting their feud with Judgment Day is pointless because they've already lost the feud with Judgment Day. They pretty much lost almost every single match they had against them. So if the OC come back and they get back involved in this whole Edge thing, it would be more likely for the OC to actually unite with Judgment Day and create a new version of Bullet Club. I don't see that being as good as I want to think it is. As part of me wants to think that this shit would actually be pretty fire. Part of me would still, if it actually happens right in front of me, I still think I would be stoked, despite what I'm saying. Despite what I'm saying right now, I still think I would be stoked for it if it happened in front of me. But do I think that it will actually stay hot long term the way it would need to in order to justify that being the replacement for the Bloodline? I kind of doubt it. I actually kind of doubt it. Now, there's one way that it probably could would be if Rhea Ripley actually gets her way in terms of Liv Morgan joining as well, because she's another part of the story who's basically been ignored ever since the night they turned on Edge. She'd been phased out of the story of the Judgment Day versus the world ever since they turned against Edge, which I thought was kind of stupid because look, if you wanted to bring the OC back to feud with the Judgment Day last year, they didn't even need to do anything stupid like bringing in somebody else. They didn't need to bring in Mia Yim completely cold out of water to be that person who's gonna fight who's gonna help the OC fight the Judgment Day. You have Liv Morgan right there. She was a part of this story. She was with AJ and Finn. She was betrayed and left high and dry by not only by Rhea but by Finn. Just like AJ was. So she would have had all the reason in the world to come back with the OC. And not only that, not only would she have had all the reason in the world, I guarantee you she would have got more of a pop. I guarantee you she would have been hotter with the audience than Mia Yim than bringing in Mia Yim out of nowhere. What, because she knew Gallows and Anderson from Impact? That suddenly makes it a good idea? Nah, Liv Morgan was right there. And I know a lot of people can be like, oh, she's look, she's on SmackDown, the whole crazy girl gimmick. That crazy girl gimmick could have been the reason why she could have taken on Ripley now. Shit, she almost beat her at the Rumble. If it wasn't for Asuka's missed. When they were both the first two entrants in the Women's Rumble, Rhea and Liv were basically fighting neck and neck until Asuka hit the mist on Liv when she was trying to hit Rhea. That's what took Liv out. So she could have been the equalizer to the Rhea Ripley problem just by the sheer craziness alone. After she lost the SmackDown Women's Championship, she went Liv gone mad. She could have been the equalizer. She could have come back into this story as the equalizer, as the OC's equalizer to Rhea Ripley. It didn't need to be this thing where you had to bring in someone else you had to bring back someone. You had to take on another contract for a cold performer. You didn't have to do that. They could have just brought Liv Morgan into the freaking picture. That would have been better. Now, if they want to bring her in now, because Rhea has sounded the bell saying, she's actually sounded the bell in an interview basically saying she wants Liv in the Judgment Day. If they're going to actually do this whole thing where the OC joins the Judgment Day, Mia Yim would not fit that shit at all. Liv Morgan with Rhea Ripley probably would. Especially if they figure out a way to, if they can figure out a way to make the OC reunite with Finn and join the Judgment Day and join forces with the Judgment Day, and they can figure out a way for Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan to reunite. If that's the steps that they're going to take, I'm okay. Let's see how this goes. I still don't think it's going to be as hot as the Bloodline. I still don't think it's going to be as hot as actually running with the WWE Bullet Club a few years ago would have been. Especially back when you had the opportunity to do that versus the Shield. And I don't think that it would be as hot as, say, running the Hurt Business nowadays. But would I be stoked to see? But would I be kind of excited as a self-admitted Bullet Club mark? Would I not be remotely excited to actually see them try? Of course I would. But I don't see. If I look at it objectively, I don't see it working. That's basically what I'm saying. And I'm trying to get a pulse on that, on the likelihood of that happening. One of the surprises, I see a Hurt Business reunion possibly being a surprise. I could probably imagine that they're going to end up involving some returns. No. Dave usually returns usually the day after WrestleMania. So, yeah, I'm kind of overthinking what could possibly happen. Now, as far as surprising decisions, Roman Reigns retaining and the Bloodline still being the preeminent power on the show, that would be a surprise to me. Fuck, even Edge winning would be a surprise to me. And as far as the Hell in a Cell, because they're trying to end that feud, which means Finn's gonna have to win. Look, Edge is on his way out. He's pretty much said that this is his last year in the business, and if he has his way, he's closing the book in Toronto at SummerSlam. So it would make no damn sense to have Edge beat Finn at WrestleMania, especially since Finn he's still got some shelf life, especially as a heel, and they're really trying to hammer him down. And him reintroducing the Demon as a heel gimmick, he's gonna have to do some shiesty shit. Finn's gonna need to do some shiesty shit to really establish that he's at his darkest. He's at his truly most demonic. And he's going to have to be effective enough to win. So that's part of the reason why I'm anticipating the OC surprise. That could be one example of Finn stooping to desperate measures to still beating Edge. So I would be surprised to see Edge win. I would be surprised to see Omos win, but I would not be, unless, actually, yeah, I would be surprised to see Omos win, because I don't think they pulled the trigger on introducing or reopening a new faction now. Or at WrestleMania itself. But if they were to do so, Omos beating Brock would probably be the ticket to do it. And of course, Brock would have to kind of get the hell beat out of him. And if that's the end of Brock, that's the end of Brock. If it's not, he comes back later for revenge. Settle that. Anyway, night number 2 of WrestleMania is tomorrow. Let's see what else happens. Will we be surprised by some shit? Will we not be surprised? Or most of the matches going to be shit that we could have called? Are they going to do anything? Are they going to introduce anything new or anything old or anything something blue, whatever the fuck? What are they going to do? I don't know. It's probably going to be good, though. That's the end of that. Stay gold.